he's out there watching television, keeping up, and is this the right thing to do? What am I going to do right now? Biden couldn't do that in a million years. Not in a million years. Mondale couldn't do that. They don't have the connection to the electricity of what's going on in the country culturally. And he knows what works.
Chris Matthews, isn't he a gropey McGrope face too? Isn't he? Didn't he resign in disgrace? But when you're a Democrat, that's Chris Matthews. He's another former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer turned NBC News anchor, multi-million-dollar anchor, seven-figure NBC Democrat Capitol Hill staffer. You know how many of them are Capitol congressional staffers and campaign staff? Chunk Todd and George Snuffleupagus, and the list goes on, and it's a sordid. Really, it's like monkeypox. They spread like monkeypox. They've got pretty much everything in common with monkeypox. Well, very happy Tuesday to you, and welcome back. I have returned to, Douglas MacArthur reference there, the Philippines and all that. Just a great vacation, a sea cruise with wonderful Americans, listeners, people from all over, from all kinds of interesting backgrounds. And we circumnavigated in a counterclockwise fashion the island nation of Iceland. And it was great. We saw the sun. We did. We saw the sun for a couple of minutes. And it was came out here and there. The last day we found a patio in Reykjavik. And my best girl and best girl's sister and her husband, Lisa and Tim. And we found nice patio tables. So we were awash in sunlight. I think my skin is peeling from all the sun we got the last day in Reykjavik, Iceland there. And we sat down at these tables. The whole street was painted like a rainbow. Like a rainbow. Like a rainbow. And what is with that? What is that? It's everywhere. It's like monkeypox. It's spreading like monkeypox. And the Democrats, they do all that stuff. But I've got a lot to get to, as you might imagine. All kinds of things have been happening since it always happens. But you can't avoid it. Whatever week you leave town, if you're me or in a job like mine, even if you're not, you leave town and the news goes crazy because every week the news is crazy. We got Barack Obama. He's what is it? Terrorist or treasonist? He's involved in a conspiracy with penitentiary face Brennan, who he's always been the disease-ridden, worm-ridden apple of my eye. And penitentiary face Brennan very much in the middle of this, and James Clapper, and of course Comey, all these crooks that some of us knew were crooks right from the start because we're not stupid, we're not corrupt, and we have good instincts, and we follow the news, and we listen. We listen. Not only do we listen, we hear. It's kind of important. So lots and lots of stuff happened on that front. No doubt about it. Last night, the big news story, and I got to tell you, I meant to check before I came in. I didn't get to it. How many people were shot and killed in Chicago over the weekend? Because it was a weekend. It was just a regular 2-day weekend. And in Chicago over the weekend, usually there's a lot of shootings because there are so many Democrats there. So they banned guns, and that means the guns that they shoot people with are illegal. And that's the only difference that is made. Remarkable stuff. But 4 people, a mass murder in New York City last night at a big building on Park Avenue. And creepy boy who he killed himself, according to the reporting anyway. And who was, CNN. CNN want to say he might be a white man. What did he say, a white guy or white guy? He possibly white. They're hopeful. They're keeping their fingers crossed. It was like the Boston Marathon bombing and everything else. They just hope that it's a white guy. And even their white guys hope that it's white guys because they're racists. And they used to lynch black people from trees with ropes and horses and bullwhips. And now they do it differently. Now they do it with technology and no ropes and horses, generally speaking, except occasionally. So we've got this mass shooting murder, 4 people, including a police officer, and the communist jihadi, would-be mayor of New York City who won the Democratic primary there. He actually tweeted about a police officer being killed because he's a Muslim from Bangladesh. Now, if it's kind of funny because his old tweets have reemerged, and his old tweets when police officers are being attacked, he's cheering it and calling for defunding because he's a fascist, communist, Nazi. What else is he? Islamist. He's against civilization, and he would destroy it, given the power. And the Democrats want to give him as much power as they can give him. Remarkable things going on in the world. So I want to catch you up on all of that good stuff. And I don't know if you woke up this morning. I'm guessing you woke up this morning because you're here listening, and so you woke up this morning. And boy, it was terrifyingly hot, wasn't it? Actually, it was very pleasant. It was very pleasant waking up this morning. Nice sunrise. I watched the sunrise. It was nice. And it's yesterday. I was out. No, we got back from Iceland, from Reykjavik, night before last into Dulles International Airport on Iceland Air. My best girl and I, along with a number of our shipmates. That's right, we're shipmates, and we arrived 10:30, I think, at Dulles International Airport. Pulled up to the gate, lickety-split, nice pilot flying the Iceland airplane, and pulled up to the gate. And then at Dulles Airport, nobody showed up to the gate for another 30 minutes. So we sat on the airplane at the gate for 30 with nothing happening. And the pilot saying, I see people running around in there, but nothing is happening. And then another 20 minutes going, there's nothing. And because Dulles International Airport. And I was like, well, I guess we're back in D.C., aren't we? We got the whole thing going. And my best girl and I, then we went and got a taxi cab guy who doesn't know that windows are supposed to be clean. He didn't know. It was a Dulles Flyer taxi cab, usually very good. This guy, I think he was a jihadi too. And he was waging jihad on clean windows, I'll tell you that much, because the front window, it's the windshield, which the driver looks through, and he had to kind of crane his head around to look around the filth on the window that was so thick that, maybe it was that dirty so that birds don't fly into it or something like that, that bugs don't fly into it. Amazing stuff. But we got home a few minutes before midnight, the night before last, and because you can't depend on not being trapped in your airplane at Dulles for hours on end, we had arranged to take yesterday, Monday, off long in advance. So yesterday I took off. I know, lazy me. But back to work today. Since we got home midnight, a few minutes before midnight, night before last, and collected stuff yesterday and did things, and amazing. But we were driving yesterday, and I was listening on the radio about how it feels like it's 135 degrees and people are dying everywhere because the weather. Because, the Democrat Party wants the weather to be hot because they have this whole global warming thing, and Al Gore got the Nobel Peace Prize. So they've got to come out and say, yeah, your thermometer says that it's 87 degrees, but really it's 105. It's like, wow, what happened to thermometers? Thermometers are really falling down on the job. And I noticed this, and I was laughing a little about it this morning, and I shared a text message with Michael Piercy because I was watching the Fox News channel this morning, and their weatherman said, and he just started giving the temperatures today with that, feels good thing. Is that what they call it? The feels good? The feels like quotient. And it's going to be 113 degrees where you are. They don't even give the real temperature anymore. They just give the Democrat Party fake temperature, the political temperature. And the Washington Post also. I want to get into this a little bit more later because it's so ridiculous. But the Washington Post, they put the weather somewhere in the newspaper, and the Metro sectional or something like that. But they say, I'm looking at it now, says today, mostly sunny, 98 degrees. Real feel, 109. Wait a minute. So my thermometer is going to tell me that it's 98 degrees. But the Washington Post is telling me that my thermometer missed the mark by 11 degrees. Your thermometer don't know nothing. Your thermometer is stupid. The Washington Post, they're smart. They know. So your thermometer will tell you it's 98 degrees, but your thermometer, the mercury, the glass, lying to you. The Washington Post knows the real feel is 109 degrees. That's going to be a problem with record keeping over the years, don't you think? Because how did we keep records? And, the record was set in 1938 or 1974 or something, back when we were just using thermometers, and we didn't have the real feel. We didn't have emotional instability based on the weather and the temperature. But now the Democrat Party, They want you, the Democrat Party wants you to believe that it's hotter than it is. So they've changed the temperature. And they've thrown out, just like gender, there aren't just boys and girls. There are also Democrats as a third option in terms of gender. And now you've got your thermometer, but you can't believe your thermometer anymore. And records don't mean anything anymore. Well, I guess we have to throw out every temperature record ever, certainly when it comes to heat, because thermometers don't do it anymore. And now that we know that, we can't believe or trust any weather record that has ever been recorded in the history of weather records. So the patriarchy figured out the thermometer and the temperature and the climate and the Earth rotating the sun rather than the other way around and all that good stuff, rotating around the sun. But never mind that. The Democrats want it to be hotter. So now in the Washington Post and on Fox News, now it's hotter, and they're just going to give you the fake temp. We'll call it the fake temp. Instead of the feels like, it's the fakes like. Isn't that amazing? I want to get back to that because that's completely ridiculous. Ridiculous, I'm telling you. Absolutely ridiculous. And the big shooting in New York City. And, I was looking at this. Did you see how many shot in Chicago? Oh, you texted me, but you can't tell me verbally. I got to go find it in my laptop now.
24 shot, 1 dead.
24 shot, only 1 dead so far. So 24 shot. And that's not in the news because, the network TV headquarters are not in Chicago. They don't have helicopter shots of the cops running into the place and stuff. But in New York, and it's obviously a terrible, horrible thing by a guy who's a bad guy, and he's a mental case. Oh, and you see about this guy who did the shooting there? He's famous as a mentally ill person, ipso facto a Democrat. And turns out that his hobby, a few years ago, he was arrested. You know what he was arrested? And Jasmine is back, which is, Jasmine, she's back from her vacation. She's in Italy and all over the place. She's a globetrotter, and she's just back. And wonderful. We ran into each other almost literally getting out of 2 elevators this morning. It was great, and great to see Jasmine back. But amazing stuff. Yeah. So the guy, do you know Jasmine? Do you know what he was arrested for? The gunman in New York who murdered those people for digging up bodies in graves and mutilating their bodies. And then they said, you can go. Again, come on, get out of here. Just knock it off. Don't do that anymore. Digging up bodies and in graves in a cemetery, at least one cemetery, and mutilating the bodies. And then the decision was made, we should let him go. And we should make sure he can buy an AR-15 style rifle legally and maybe get a job as a security guy. Because what do we care? Digging up bodies and mutilating corpses. As long as he votes Democrat, we're fine with that. So I'll update you on that guy. Just amazing. And he's got everything going from, I don't think he's an illegal alien, but he might turn out to be. The media might miss that for a couple of days because you know how they are. Aren't they amazing? All right, and President Trump in Scotland. We went to Scotland last year's sea cruise with our outstanding listeners as well. I think we had 3 stops in Scotland. And you know what they had there? Fish and chips. They got good fish and chips. That's Scotland. That's right. And in Iceland, you know what they have? They got fish and chips. They got fish and chips. They're not even far from, you look at the map. There's not a lot between Iceland and Scotland. And fish and chips. Coincidence? Conspiracy? I don't know. But we got that going. And President Trump in Scotland had big things going on with trade agreements that are all benefiting the United States because he's not a Democrat. He's on our side, and he wants us to do well. The Democrats want us to fail, go down in flames, and become an illegal alien death pot where everyone's shooting each other, and, of course, spreading monkeypox. You know how they love to spread the monkeypox. Michael, how do they spread the monkeypox? Do you know how they spread the monkeypox? Wait a minute, he's making hand signals. He's doing hand things. You sure? Is that? Also, we've got the headline in the Hill: Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, but the left will never admit it. Yeah, well, that's just one thing. We've got a lot going on and some to catch up on. I won't spend too much time catching up, but there's a lot to talk about. We remain at 888-630-9625. absolutely toll-free to you, our valuable listeners, our beloved and valued listeners, pro-American people, and some Democrats listen too. 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. I must begin. This is what happens when you get out of practice. I must beg your forgiveness because the Democrat criminal trying to murder everybody who has a history of digging up bodies is not the New York guy. He's the Traverse City, Michigan Walmart stabbing guy. Did you see that one with the guy, former Marine, shows up with his pistol and draws his pistol, and he's a black guy. He's got dreads all the way down his back, well, at least halfway down below his shoulder blades, and he controlled the situation, didn't shoot the crazy man, held him at bay. The police showed up, lickety-split, no time at all, because it's Traverse City, Michigan. But the story that got my attention, man charged with Traverse City Walmart stabbing had history of digging up bodies. Sure, he's looking for Abby Normal, I think, and that great history of digging up bodies. So the man accused of stabbing 11 people at a Walmart near Traverse City has a long history of mental illness, Democrat, that included treatment after he was charged 9 years ago with digging up and mutilating dead bodies at a Petoskey cemetery. It's a Petoskey cemetery. Court records show Bradford Gills, Gille, so Bradford Gill, but Bradford Gill's file in Emmett County Probate Court showed that he had been treated for a mental illness dating back to 1989. The probate records and state police records show that Gill, 42 years old now, who goes by Brad, they want you to call him Brad, the news media. Hi, Brad, was arrested in 2016 in Petoskey, and he was arrested on charges of dead body disinterment and mutilation. Sure. And the destruction of tombs and memorials. Well, that's part and parcel of the same thing. I mean, you really have to charge that separately? I guess you do. Details of the crime weren't available in probate court records, which described it as digging up bodies in the graveyard. But Gill told doctors that he feared that the people had been buried alive. Well, I can see why that would be a matter of great concern. You know, you want to get them out while you can. I've seen that. That's like a Rod Serling movie or something. That's great. Records show he was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Diagnosed with schizophrenia and psychoactive substance abuse. So is that LSD? So he's tripping his brains out on LSD and he's digging up bodies because he thinks they're trapped alive in there. And then he's mutilating their corpses just in case. And then you know what he did? He voted for Joe Biden and for Kamala Harris, as any child can see. The Washington Times, your newspaper of record in Washington, D.C., has a front page story today, Declassified Files expose Obama-era plot to frame Trump with Russia lies. And Rowan Scarborough, great Washington reporter, Rowan Scarborough, he's been around town for a while. He knows how things work. He knows what's going on here. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard's stunning words that President Obama led a treasonous conspiracy to sabotage his incoming successor, Donald Trump, stand as the starkest event so far in the Democratic Party-inspired Russia hoax and its dark history. However, an analysis by the Washington Times shows that Ms. Gabbard's show-stopping press release contained one misleading conclusion in her argument that Mr. Obama's political appointees snuffed out professional analysis opinions, the opinions of the analysts. Ms. Gabbard's release on July 18th of 100 pages of declassified documents came with two principal narratives. First, Mr. Obama directed the Director of National Intelligence to put together a quick 4-week intelligence community assessment, they like to call it the ICA, that would elevate Moscow as a great election disruptor, with the implication that it was responsible for Mr. Trump's 2016 election win. Sure. And that's the big lie. Just like their guy. Who's their guy? Gergel, I think it is, who says that a lie told once remains a lie. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And that really is the mantra of the Democrat Party. There's no doubt about that.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Gergel?
I think he was. Mr. Obama's order basically demanded a rigged, I tell you, intelligence community assessment, according to Ms. Gabbard's argument. Mr. Obama did not ask whether Russia did it, but how. Let's just decide how this works, because we're setting up the incoming president of the United States with a false story that we will then repeat 1,000 times with the help of our henchmen and the fake news media like George Stephanopoulos, a Clinton White House official, a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer. Then let's go to Chris Matthews, former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, Tip O'Neill staffer. Then let's go to Chunk Todd, former Democrat Senate campaign staffer, and then let's go down the list, because that's how the lie is repeated 1,000 times and it becomes the truth, don't you know? And then there's academia, which the big lie, as Gergel used to call it. Second, Rowan Scarborough continues in the Washington Times. Second, the January 6th. Isn't that interesting? January 6th, 2017 intelligence community assessment. It's like an insurrection. Came with conclusions not universally supported by in-house intelligence professionals in 2016. Now, that's Rowan Scarborough's way of saying that the intelligence community didn't say what Obama wanted the intelligence community to say. So they had the Communist Party voting John Brennan, penitentiary face, as his mother always called him from the moment of his birth. When he was born, his mother said, "Look at him. Look at his face. Looks like he belongs in a penitentiary." And maybe now at long last, Donald Trump will help him realize his real potential. He voted for Gus Hall, the Communist Party candidate for President of the United States in 1976. And then Barack Obama made him CIA director because he knew he was a Communist Party voter. What are you if not a communist, if you vote for the Communist Party candidate in the U.S. presidential race? Communist. And then the communist CIA director, Barack Obama, mentored by communist Frank Marshall Davis when he was a teenager. Then the CIA director and Barack Obama, they corrupted the 2016 election and the 2020 election, with the 51, the felonious 51, the fake intelligence people, with the the Hunter Biden laptop, that looks like Russian disinformation. Now, who's sleeping with the Russians when everything they do goes back to the Russians? It's the Democrat Party that leads back to the Russians when it comes to everything. So, second, January 6th, ironically, 2017 intelligence community assessment came with conclusions not universally supported by the intelligence professionals in 2016. Mr. Obama, the director of national intelligence at the time, James Clapper, remember him lying under oath to Congress about spying on all of us? CIA director John O'Brennan, it's not O'Brennan, his middle initial is O, and he's John Brennan, he's penitentiary face and a communist. And FBI director James B. Comey, all anti-Trump activists, exerted great influence, Ms. Gabbard said. Now, you got to keep in mind that Tulsi Gabbard, until 3 years ago, was a Democrat. She was a Democrat member of the House of Representatives. She was a Democrat member of the Hawaii State House. She was a Democrat, I think, city council member in Hawaii. And then she decided this place is a loony bin. Oh, and keep in mind, Hillary Clinton, remember Hillary Clinton smearing and slandering Tulsi Gabbard. who was a Democrat. I think when Hillary Clinton said this, Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat member of Congress.
I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary. She's
Russians.
the favorite of the Russians. Yeah, she's a Russian asset. I mean, totally.
Yeah. She was a Democrat member of Congress, a U.S. Army officer that actually deployed to Iraq, unlike Tim Walz, the Minnesota Democrat governor who was Kamala Harris's running mate not so long ago. Amazing stuff. So these people are incredibly corrupt criminals. I would call them criminals because of the crimes that I believe they committed. They, of course, haven't been convicted yet, but let's get the bullwhips out and drag them behind the chuck wagon till we get them down to the courthouse. Amazing stuff. James V. Comey, all anti-Trump activists, they exerted great influence, Ms. Gabbard said. The intelligence community, they don't really live in the same place, by the way. I checked on this. In fact, on our sea cruise, how many CIA people were on our sea cruise? It's kind of former. I'm not sure any current CIA people, but former CIA people on our sea cruise. Number is correct. Well, military officers, FBI, a lot of great, fun people on our sea cruise. The Intelligence Community Assessment Report contains 7 key judgments. The first one, on which Mr. Obama's team put the most emphasis, was the contested finding that the Kremlin favored Mr. Trump and worked to get him elected. This fell in line with the Democrats' false Russian collusion charge, which they inflicted on Mr. Trump for the next 3 years. Ms. Gabbard release of staff memo, an important staff memo, stating that the Obama Intelligence Community Assessment doubled down on the finding when it said that further information has come to light since Election Day, right? The Gabbard memo said that the source for the new anti-Trump information was the Democrat Party finance Steele dossier, which turned out to be a hoax. But they used Hillary Clinton's opposition research, the phony that crooked, and the FBI knew that Christopher Steele was a fraud because they had him on the payroll. They paid him, and they used him for information, and they determined that things that he told them were lies, were not true, were false. So the FBI said, well, he's not a reliable source. And Hillary Clinton said, well, that's exactly the kind of person we want. So they hired him and paid him lots of money through a crooked law firm in Washington called Perkins Coie, because it's all a corrupt circle fest in a hot tub. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing stuff. So it was all a fake in the Steele dossier. These documents detail a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest levels of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and try to usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate, Ms. Tulsi Gabbard said. And again, she was a Democrat member of Congress. And Hillary Clinton's accusing her of being a Russian asset based on absolutely stinking nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except that she is a filthy, corrupt, awful person who will tomorrow morning wake up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit because it's Wednesday, and that's how Hillary lives. That's one of the things about her that everybody needs to know. Isn't that amazing? So a treasonous conspiracy by officials, the highest level of the Obama White House. This is what's going on while I was gone on the listener sea cruise, the Plante sea cruise, on a most beautiful ship. It was quite extraordinary. So Mr. Obama led a critical December 9th, 2016 White House strategy session, keeping in mind that is after President Trump had been elected by the American people, but before the inauguration, right? And the Obama-led strategy session that generated buzz of emails that night, alerting the bureaucracy that the president wanted a new anti-Moscow paper released before Mr. Trump took office. See, he had won, but he hadn't been inaugurated, won the election on Election Day, or election season, election 3-month period with the crooked Democrats. But and then Obama, December 9th, put out a memo saying we need to corrupt the hell out of everything. We need to abuse our power as has never been done before. We need to make Richard Nixon look like the straightest, most honest man in the history of American politics. We need to Obama-size this whole thing. Isn't that amazing? So before Mr. Trump was to take office, Barack Obama a strategy session, and then the emails started flying. Wanted a new anti-Moscow paper released before Inauguration Day. A DNI email that evening said it was not whether Moscow interfered, but how. Because they didn't care what the intelligence community said. They just wanted the political abuse. The intelligence community is prepared to produce an assessment per the president's request that pulls together the information we have on the tools Moscow used and the actions it took to influence the 2016 election. An explanation of why Moscow directed these activities and how Moscow's approach had changed over time, going back to 2008 and 2012 as reference points. So wait a minute. This actually admits that Russia tampered in our 2008 election, tampered in our 2012 election. Who won those elections, Michael? Wait, Barack Hussein Obama, who was mentored by a communist named Frank Marshall Davis as a teenager. Barack Obama, who chose Communist Party voter John Brennan to head the CIA. And Moscow meddled in our 2008 and 2012 elections. And that's because they've meddled in our elections going back to the 1930s, because that's what communists do. And then part of the big lie is that the first time Russia, communist, Putin, ever meddled in our elections was 2016. And that might be the biggest lie of all. These people lie because they're breathing, and that's what they do. So then they said, oh, yeah, let's see a change going back to 2008 and 2012. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence will lead the effort with participation from CIA, FBI, NSA, and DHS. It's a lot of abbreviations, isn't it? Central Intelligence Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, National Security Agency, the Department of Homeland Security, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And in the Obama White House, they were all brought in to propagate the falsehood that this was somehow unusual for the commies in Russia and Putin to meddle in our elections. Not uncommon, very, very common. And that they were doing it because they wanted Trump to win. That's a big lie. Why? They had paid Bill Clinton $500,000 for a speech in Moscow, more than he had ever been paid for any speech ever. What's up with that? Well, Ms. Gabbard released papers, the papers that she released, that shed light on partisan operators wanting a parting shot at Trump. The papers contained a misleading statement, according to the Washington Times analysis. The finding, put partially in bold, was the lead bulleted item in her press release. The item was meant to showcase Ms. Gabbard's contention that intelligence experts concluded Russia was not trying to influence the election with cyber attacks, and it said, in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community, then you have to abbreviate it as IC, because we all have to speak in code, so in parentheses, IC, consistently assessed that Russia is probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means. This quote is taken from a September 9, 2016 DNI email, but is not what it said. The DNI official statement said, and everything is misrepresented because it's Washington. And Barack Obama's administration is the most corrupt administration in the history of the country. Richard Nixon didn't know anything about the break-in at the Watergate Hotel before it happened. He only learned of it after. And then it's never the crime, it's always the cover-up. That's where that saying comes from, that tired old Washington saying. But Barack Obama and his gang of miscreants who have abused their power to corrupt our presidential elections way beyond anything that Richard Nixon was ever accused of doing. Barack Obama is the most corrupt president we've ever had, based on the information that we have at this point and the documents, and the Director of National Intelligence, who, again, was a Democrat member of Congress until just a few years ago. And like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said, his father, Robert F. Kennedy Sr., and his uncle, John F. Kennedy, the president, would find today's Democratic Party unrecognizable. Tulsi Gabbard decided the same thing. She became an independent for 2 years and only last year became a Republican. But the Democrats were already accusing her of being a Russian asset. Hillary Clinton herself being a Russian asset. These people are corrupt people. I'd like to sound the alarm on that. Everyone should know how corrupt these people are. And it starts with Barack Hussein Obama and his mentor, Frank Marshall Davis.
Just say thank you, please.
Look out for the heat index today. The heat index kills. There are no weather records anymore. They just used thermometers back then. Now the temperature is thermometers plus politics. Democrat Party politics, of course. All right, let us go to the telephones, Michael, and talk to the nice American people and people from all over this great planet of ours. Let's go to Gene, calling from Youngstown, Ohio. Gene, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris, good morning. Welcome back. Glad you're back. But Mike always does a great job for you, so you're lucky there. I guess you're close friends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What I was calling about, I had a couple things. Brennan, and maybe Mike played this, but I heard someone talking about Brennan that when he was advised by his senior advisors, CIA advisors, that there was nothing to the Russian stuff. He said, it just sounds right, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. For whose purposes?
Well, yeah, right. And then I want to tell you my Tulsi Gabbard story. About a couple of years ago, our local Republican Party invited her to be the guest speaker at our Lincoln Day dinner. And I hadn't warmed up to her because she left the Democrat Party, but she didn't become a Republican. So I'm thinking, I'm going to Lincoln Day dinner. Why are they having someone who's not a Republican speak? Mm-hmm. But I guess I was really wrong. I didn't go. I boycotted it, but I was really wrong. And because she seems like she's turning out to be a star if we get any of this done. I had one third thing I want to ask you. You brought up the Dulles Flyer. You brought back old memories when I lived down there. Right? I can't believe they had dirty windows because I sold them cars. I sold them Chevrolets.
No kidding.
They were a hard group. Yeah, they were a hard group to sell, though, but I conquered it. But they never deal with me one at a time. It's like they come a group come in the showroom, and one of a smart-ass salesmen always say, call the bomb squad.
Wow, you're connected all over the place here, man. Yeah. Dulles Flyer is usually great. The cab service out of Dulles International Airport. Yeah, this guy. I took a picture of his mugshot in the back because I think he might end up in the news one day. Yeah, the window thing was pretty ridiculous. We couldn't see out the window. He couldn't see out the window. It was good Tulsi Gabbard story. Look, you weren't wrong at the time. You know, your opinion was perfectly right at the time.